So, what should the public be doing, thinking? We've heard from the cabinet officials have to prepare, but how should they be preparing?
Sure. I think it's more about attitude, and it's a sense of personal resiliency that we think is going to be the most important feature for people to have in mind. And that is, what are the things that I can do to control my environment in the best possible way to protect myself and my family and my coworkers? And that involves using a lot of the kinds of steps that we've talked about in the public space a lot in the past, and that includes things like covering your cough, hand washing, and so on. But again, those are little techniques that people can use that are self-protective. But I think a lot of this has to do with their sense of personal resiliency and empowerment. And I think citizens who can reach to their community institutions and work to influence those institutions to appropriately plan for an event will have a greater sense of resiliency and a sense that survivability of any real severe event is going to be increased immeasurably. We do not believe at this time that we're looking at a tremendously severe event, but that could change. Again, we're monitoring closely the activities in the Southern Hemisphere. Just last week I was in Mexico. We had 35 nations there. I spent time with the Argentinians and others in that environment. And right now it does not appear that we will be looking at a large, severe event. But that doesn't mean that we won't see a lot of sick people in the fall.
How does the citizen go to those institutions? If I'm an employee, do I go to my boss, knowing that potentially my job may hang in the balance if I don't show up? How do citizens approach the institutions that they are involved with?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and certainly there are those potential adverse environments. But my experience in the last year or two in my role as the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response has been that business is very responsive to considering this because, in fact, their business future relies on the stability and continuity of their business, so that raising questions with them about how have they planned for continuity of business in the face of an event that may challenge it is something that they can relate to. That's a little different than taking an approach that says, I'm your employee, what are you doing for me? My belief is that if people approach it as management and the workforce both have a vested interest in seeing the survival of this business, and that's about the health of the people who work in the business, I think having that common ground of understanding will empower both the business manager or owner as well as the workforce. And we've gotten real positive response from things like the National Chamber of Commerce, grocery retailers, other organizations like this, that in fact they appreciate that their future survivability as a business is a question mark that they have to try and address.